Gachka, Kinga Gachka goes on the outside for Poland, the 23-year-old. Has only run 54.1 this year. Her lifetime best, though, is 52.0, so she may improve her season's best here. Amila Rowe of Australia, third in their championships, just 18 years old, the Aussie. She goes in lane 8. Her first race in the Northern Hemisphere this. She's got to be nervous. Gabby Scott of Puerto Rico goes in lane 7. 51.06. She ran on the 19th of April, but she's a 50.5 athlete, is Gabby Scott. There's Evelis Aguiar, 32 years old. She's improved massively this year. 49.80 at altitude in Bogota back in early April. She only made the quarterfinals in Paris, 52.8 last year. Natalia Bukowiecka, there she is. A real star of Polish athletics. Twice an Olympic silver medalist in Tokyo 21 in both relays. She was second in Doha recently. That was only 3 weeks ago or so. 50.92. Good lane draw, too, for her in lane 5. Sveti Ercetic, another Polish heroine. European champion back in 2018 in Berlin. She's run 51.2 this year, within a second of her lifetime best. Lauren Gale of Canada goes in lane 3, 51.0 this season, but she's a 50.4 athlete at her best. That's a good lane draw for Gale. Lada Vondrova, the Czech, European under-23 champion back in 2021, the former footballer who goes in lane 2. And then Anastasia Kush, just 18 years old. She ran leg 3 at the World Indoors in Nanjing for Poland when they took the silver medal in the 4x400 meters. She's already got big experience just a few weeks ago in China in a global championships. Our season's best, though, Kuz in lane 1, just 53.06. She has run 51.8. That was last year. So Kuz in 1. Lada Vondrova, former European under-23 champion in 2 for the Czech Republic. The Canadian Gale in 3. Sveti Ercetic in 4. Watch her. Can she find her best form? Natalia Bukowiecka goes in lane 5 for Poland. Favourite, I guess, here. Aguilar of Colombia in 6. Puerto Rican Scott in 7. Rowe of Australia 8. The Pole Gachka in lane 9 on the outside. So. Well, Bukowiecka loves to run aggressively. Her season's best 50.9. She ran 48.9 last year at the London Diamond League. There she is in the all-red centre of picture. She's gone off pretty hard, moving up alongside Aguilar of Colombia. Sveti Ercetic has got a lot of work to do at the moment in lane 4. Going well, Scott of Puerto Rico out in lane 7. She eases past the Gachka, the youngster, out in lane 9 in the yellow. But a nice balanced race from Bukowiecka so far. Brilliant running in lane 3 from Gale of Canada. What an aggressive 300 she's run so far. She hasn't broken 51 seconds this year, but she might have to here. Now she begins to tread water as Bukowiecka, who's judged this one perfectly, moves through in the red there in lane 5. Going away from the field, a real battle royal for the minor places. She wins it 50.45. Brilliant run from Lauren Gale, who just started treading water over the last 50 or 60. And then great running and a real battle for third place there towards the outer lanes. But what time has she been confirmed with? 50.44 there for Natalia Bukowiecka. It is a big season's best for her. She has run a second and a half quicker than that, so there's so much more to come. But that puts her up in about 15th place on the world rankings this year. Very, very competent indeed. You know, Hannah, one of the features of her racing is she runs beautifully balanced races. She stays strong down the home straight. And that skill of spreading your strength and ability throughout the full distance eludes so many athletes.
No, Bukowiecka, she's always reliable in that last 50 metres. And that's a big chunk off her season's best. And she seems to measure the season well as well. It's not only each race, it's as we move through every month and you get closer to a big championships. She just rounds into form. And I think Bukowiecka was part of those relay squads for so long that were picking up medals. And then there was just a change in her attitude a couple of years ago. And she went, no, look, I can get my individual medals. And she almost had to take a step back from her relay commitments to kind of unleash that form and be able to get herself on global podiums. And she picked up a small injury indoors, if you remember as well. She was due to do a full...
She ran the first 200 meters in 23.1 seconds. That number alone means nothing. What makes it interesting is everything that followed, because the second half of this race told a specific story about energy management, lactate tolerance, and a finish nobody in the field could answer. This is Bydgoszcz, Poland, the Arena Śląska Memorial, a strong international field at one of the year's major invitational meets. In lane 5, Natalia Bukowiecka is about to run a 400 meters that analysts kept returning to, not for the first half, but for what she had left in the second. So why does a 23.1 second first split win a race? That's what this breakdown covers. By the end, you'll see a specific moment, around the 280 meter mark, where the race was effectively settled before the finish line was anywhere near. The field carried real quality. Lauren Gale of Canada had been running sub-51 second times in the weeks before. Gabby Scott brought competitive 400 credentials from the previous indoor season. Svetlana Urzadic was known for aggressive early pacing. She attacks curves with a stride rate most coaches consider borderline reckless. 4.7 steps per second through the first bend, opening 100 meters in 11.8 seconds. That is fast. Dangerously fast for a one-lap race. Here's what most people assume about the 400, that whoever leads at 200 meters has the best top-end speed. That's wrong. The athlete leading at 200 is the one who spent the most energy getting there. Energy spent in the first half is borrowed from the second. Urzadic's early aggression stretched the field immediately and forced a decision on everyone else. Respond and risk a catastrophic final 100, or hold discipline and trust the plan, Gale responded. She pushed through 300 meters with split tracking showing approximately 36.4 seconds, a pace pulling ahead of the established hierarchy. The crowd, predominantly Polish, watched their home athlete seemingly get swallowed by it. Bukowiecka's 23.1 second first 200 left her roughly 1.2 meters behind Gale at halfway. That gap looks like a deficit. It wasn't. It was margin. Specifically the margin she had preserved in her phosphocreatine and glycolytic systems, the two primary energy pathways that power a 400-meter finish. An athlete who runs the first half in 22.8 seconds versus 23.1 seconds doesn't just spend 0.3 seconds more at pace. She spends disproportionately more energy because oxygen debt accrues non-linearly at those velocities. Put yourself at the 250-meter mark in Bukowiecka's position. You can see the athletes ahead. The gap looks real. The crowd isn't making noise for you yet. And still, your stride mechanics are intact. 2.55 meter stride length, 4.4 steps per second, a forward lean of roughly 6 degrees held cleanly through the back straight. Every technical indicator says she has something left. Gale did not collapse. That matters. She ran a disciplined final 100, but her stride length shortened measurably in the final 80 meters, from roughly 2.4 meters to around 2.1 meters, a 12.5% contraction. That is what fatigue-induced stride shortening looks like mechanically. It happens when fast twitch fiber recruitment starts to fail and the neuromuscular system begins rationing output. The legs are still turning over quickly, but each step covers less ground. Speed drops even when effort stays maximal. Bukowiecka's stride held closer to 2.45 meters through the final 60 meters. Not because she's exceptional in some abstract sense, but because she hadn't already spent the muscular reserves that maintain stride length under fatigue. The differential in the final 100 meters was roughly 0.5 meters per stride over approximately 42 strides. That accumulates. It accumulates to winning margins. Here's the part that still doesn't sit cleanly. Gale had the better top-end speed in this field. Her peak velocity through the back straight was approximately 9.1 meters per second. Bukowiecka peaked closer to 8.9 meters per second at the same phase. So why did the slower top speed win? Because top speed in a 400 is almost irrelevant if reaching it means spending down reserves you need for the final curve. What this race reveals is something about how the women's 400 has shifted tactically. The races that draw the most attention now are the ones with near even splits, first and second 200, within half a second of each other. Running hard early and hanging on is being replaced by athletes who have genuinely internalized the physiological arithmetic. Bukowiecka's race was a precise demonstration of that arithmetic. The deciding factor wasn't the finish. The finish was just where the decision became visible. The decision happened at 280 meters, where her stride mechanics were still producing 2.5-meter steps, while others around her had already shifted into defensive running, trying to maintain velocity rather than generate it. That is the threshold in any 400. Either you still have productive mechanics at 280 meters, or you are managing decline. She was still producing. Gail was managing. Is this the new template for women's 400 excellence, banking energy in the first half and striking with intact mechanics in the second? Comment below with what you think the optimal first to second split ratio should be for a sub 5400. Final time, Bukowiecka crossed in approximately 50.38 seconds. The margin over second place was 0.19 seconds. In a race lasting just over 50 seconds, that is a meaningful gap. It doesn't reflect a photo finish tipped by small technical choices. It reflects a structural advantage in energy distribution that compounded across the full second half. What to watch for in any women's 400, the 280-meter mark. Not 300, not the final straight, the 280. That is where stride integrity either holds or starts to break. That is usually where the winner is already decided, even with 120 meters still to run. Watch stride length there. Watch the forward lean. Watch whether the athlete is still running or starting to fight. The fastest top speed doesn't always win the 400. The most disciplined energy system does. If you want to understand why, our breakdown of the men's 400 at the Lausanne Diamond League covers the same mechanics with a different set of numbers and a finish nobody saw coming. Linked in the description. If this is what you watch athletics for, subscribe and leave a comment on what event you want broken down next. We read everyone.